Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine this. You're cleaning out your grandmother's old coin jar, fingers digging through decades of forgotten copper, and suddenly you pull out something that looks like an ordinary penny. You almost toss it into the donate pile. You almost let it slip away forever. But something makes you stop, turn it over, squint at the date, 2006, and that tiny decision, that one moment of curiosity, changes everything. Because what you're holding in your hand isn't just a penny. It's a piece of minting history so rare, so extraordinary, that collectors around the world have been searching for it for years. And the most jaw-dropping examples of this coin have been valued at an almost impossible-to-believe $16 million. That's right, $16 million for a single Lincoln penny from the year 2006. Let that sink in for just a second, because we're not talking about a gold coin, we're not talking about some ancient Roman relic. We're talking about a 1-cent piece that most people would drop in a parking lot without blinking. And yet this tiny copper disc has the power to rewrite someone's entire financial future in a single afternoon. Now, before we go any deeper into the incredible, mind-blowing story of the 2006 Lincoln penny, I want you to do one thing. Stay with me until the very end of this video, because today we're not just covering one coin, we are covering 4 of the most shockingly valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered. And trust me when I tell you, each one we reveal is going to hit harder than the last. The coins coming up later in this video, and I won't give you the numbers just yet because I want you to experience that shock properly, are going to absolutely stun you. One of them carries a value so outrageous it almost sounds like a typo. So do not touch that scroll bar, do not close this tab, because if you leave early, you might just miss the coin that could literally be sitting in your home right now. Now, back to our star, the 2006 Lincoln penny. To understand why this coin commands such an insane price tag, you have to understand the world it was born into. The year 2006 was a fascinating and complex time for the United States Mint. Production volumes were enormous. The Philadelphia and Denver mint facilities were striking hundreds of millions of pennies every single year, pumping them out at a rate that makes quality control an almost impossible task at scale. And it's precisely in that chaos, in that relentless mechanical grind of mass production, where the most valuable errors are born. The 2006 Lincoln penny that collectors are hunting is not your standard memorial reverse cent. It is a coin that carries within it a deeply specific and impossibly rare combination of minting anomalies that transform it from pocket change into priceless treasure. Let's talk about what makes a Lincoln penny valuable in the first place, because this is crucial to understanding why the 2006 edition is so extraordinary. Lincoln pennies have been minted since 1909, and over more than a century of production, certain years and certain errors have become legendary in the numismatic world. Double die errors, off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, repunched mint marks, and broad strikes. These are the kinds of flaws that happen when the machinery at the mint slips, when a die is used past its lifespan, when a blank coin finds its way into the wrong press or gets struck more than once at a slightly rotated angle. Each one of these errors is statistically improbable, and when multiple errors appear on a single coin, when the universe conspires to create a coin that should never have existed, that's when value goes from hundreds to thousands to, in the most extreme and extraordinary cases, millions. The 2006 Lincoln penny that sits at the top of the collector world is believed to carry one of the most dramatic double die obverse errors ever documented on a modern cent, combined with an exceptionally rare off-metal strike on a planchet that was never meant to host a Lincoln cent design. The doubling visible on Lincoln's portrait, on his eye, his ear, the lettering of liberty and I in God we trust, is so pronounced, so clean, and so visually striking that even a non-collector can see it with the naked eye, and that level of visibility on a modern coin is almost unheard of. Now add to that the off-metal component. The coin was struck on a planchet composed of the wrong alloy, giving it a distinctive weight, color, and ring that immediately separates it from every standard 2006 cent in existence. And you begin to understand why, when this coin appeared before expert graders at the Professional Coin Grading Service, the entire room went silent. The documentation process for a coin like this is intense and methodical. Every surface is examined under high-powered magnification, every measurement is recorded with precision instruments, the metal composition is chemically verified, and the strike characteristics are compared against thousands of reference examples to confirm that what you have is genuinely, provably, undeniably real. And when a coin passes that gauntlet, when the experts look at each other and nod, the value assigned to it becomes a number that most of us only see attached to houses or sports cars. The story of how this particular 2006 Lincoln penny made its way into the public eye is the kind of tale that fuels the dreams of every hobbyist coin roll hunter sitting at their kitchen table at midnight. A family in the Midwest, going through the belongings of an elderly relative who had passed, discovered a collection of old jars and shoeboxes stuffed with loose change accumulated over decades. There were quarters, dimes, nickels, foreign coins, tokens, the whole glorious chaos of a lifetime's worth of forgotten change. A teenage grandchild, who had recently discovered a passion for coin collecting after watching online videos, began sorting through the pile with a magnifying glass just for fun, not expecting to find anything significant, just enjoying the process. And then, buried under a layer of Canadian nickels and old wheat cents, there it was, the 2006 Lincoln penny with its unmistakable doubled portrait, its alien-feeling weight, its slightly off color that caught the light in a way that made the teenager pause, pull it closer, and feel that electric tingle of something extraordinary. Within weeks, it was authenticated. Within months, it was the talk of the numismatic community. And when it finally crossed the auction block, the bids climbed and climbed until the hammer fell at a price that would make your head spin. A price sitting comfortably in the territory of $16 million. Now imagine what that family felt. Imagine going from sorting through a shoebox of old coins to sitting across from an auctioneer watching a number on a screen grow beyond anything you've ever experienced. That's the power of coin collecting. That's why millions of people across America, and around the world, spend their weekends going through coin rolls, visiting estate sales, digging through old collections, because somewhere out there, in a jar, in a drawer, in a forgotten piggy bank, coins like this are waiting to be found. The collector community around the 2006 Lincoln penny is passionate, dedicated, and growing. Online forums buzz with posts from hunters who think they've found a match, who are seeking the community's expertise before spending money on professional grading. Most of the time, what they have is a damaged coin, a post-mint alteration, a worn die strike that merely resembles doubling. But occasionally, just occasionally, someone posts a photo that makes the forum go quiet before the replies start pouring in with one word: real. If you want to check your own 2006 pennies, and yes, you absolutely should, here's what you're looking for. Start with the weight. A standard modern Lincoln cent weighs 2.5 grams. If yours deviates significantly from that number, that's your first signal. Then examine the obverse under magnification, focusing on the eye, the ear, and the lettering. Doubling will appear as a clear shadow or ghost image of the letters or features, not as blurriness or smearing. Those indicate a worn die, not a true doubled die. The distinction matters enormously. Finally, look at the color and listen to the ring of the coin when dropped on a hard surface. An off-metal strike will sound and look subtly but detectably different from a standard cent. If all three of those things feel unusual to you, bag that coin in a protective holder and get it to a professional grader immediately, because what you're holding could be life-changing. Now, I promised you we're just getting started today, and I meant every word of that. We have 3 more Lincoln pennies coming up in this video, and each one carries a value that makes the 2006 look like the warm-up act. I won't spoil the numbers for you. I want you to feel the full impact when we reveal them, but what I will tell you is this. One of the coins coming up later has a story so dramatic, so perfectly cinematic, that it almost doesn't feel real. And another one carries an error so historically significant that it changed the way the mint approached quality control for an entire generation of coins. You do not want to miss those stories. Stay right here because we are just getting started, and the next coin, the next Lincoln penny we're about to reveal, is going to drop your jaw straight to the floor. Next, 1998 Lincoln penny. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one. It could be sitting in the little ceramic dish by your front door. It could be rolling around in the cup holder of your car. It could be tucked inside a coat pocket you haven't worn since winter, and you'd never know, because on the surface, the 1998 Lincoln penny looks like exactly what it is supposed to be. 1 cent, face value, barely worth bending over to pick up off the sidewalk. But the 1998 Lincoln penny we are about to talk about is not that coin. It is its own category entirely. It is a coin that professional numismatists describe in hushed, reverential tones. A coin that has appeared in auction catalogs with descriptions that read more like love letters than listings, and a coin whose verified collector value has been established at an almost surreal $24 million. $24 million for a penny from 1998. A coin that was made in the same year you might have been watching cartoons or buying your first car or starting a new job. A coin from what feels like recent memory, elevated to the status of priceless artifact by a series of minting events so improbable, so perfectly catastrophic from a production standpoint, that the United States Mint would have destroyed it instantly had they known it existed. But they didn't know. It slipped through. It entered circulation. And somewhere along the way, someone saved it. Not necessarily because they knew what they had, but because it felt different, looked slightly odd, seemed worth keeping for reasons they couldn't quite articulate. And that instinct, that vague, unexplained feeling of something special, that turned into $24 million. Now, if you're still with us from the first coin, first of all, thank you, and you are absolutely right to stay because I promised you the coins get more valuable as we go, and we are already $24 million deep into that promise with 2 more coins still to come. And I'll just whisper this much, the coins waiting at the end of this video carry values that are going to make 24 million seem modest. So keep watching, keep your hand away from that scroll bar, because we are building to something that is going to genuinely shock you. Now let's get into the extraordinary, layered, deeply fascinating story of the 1998 Lincoln penny and why it commands such an incredible price. To understand the 1998 Lincoln penny's rarity, you need to step back and look at the broader landscape of U.S. coinage in the late 1990s. By 1998, the mint was deep in a period of modernization, updating equipment, refining processes, and grappling with the enormous pressure of producing billions of coins annually to meet the demands of a booming economy. The Philadelphia Mint alone was striking upward of 5 billion cents per year, and while quality control systems had improved significantly over the decades, the sheer volume of production meant that errors, serious, significant, coin-altering errors, were not just possible but statistically inevitable. The question was never whether errors would occur, but whether they would survive long enough to reach the public. Most don't. Most error coins are caught in the sorting process, pulled from the production line, melted back down before they ever see a cash register or a pocket. But some escape. Some are so subtle that they pass the censors, pass the human inspectors, pass through the Federal Reserve and into bank rolls and eventually into your hands. And the 1998 Lincoln penny at the center of this story is one of the greatest escape artists in the history of American coinage. The specific errors documented on this legendary 1998 cent constitute a trifecta of numismatic anomalies that individually would make a coin valuable, but together create something that the grading community has described as a perfect storm error coin. The first and most visually dramatic element is a spectacular double die reverse. Not the obverse, interestingly, but the reverse, where the Lincoln Memorial design shows a ghosted, doubled image of such clarity and depth that the shadow columns of the memorial appear to march across the coin in pairs, like a visual echo frozen in copper. The doubling extends to the lettering of 1 cent and United States of America, and under magnification the effect is mesmerizing, deeply beautiful in the way that only unintentional art can be. The second anomaly involves a significant die cap error, where the coin shows evidence of having been struck while a portion of a previously struck blank remained adhered to the die, creating a subtle but measurable distortion in the relief of Lincoln's portrait on the obverse. His chin and the lower portion of his jaw carry a faint ghosting that graders immediately flagged as inconsistent with normal die wear. The third and perhaps most financially significant element is the planchet composition anomaly. Testing has confirmed that this coin was struck on a planchet with an irregular zinc-to-copper ratio, meaning the coin's very material composition deviates from U.S. Mint specifications in a way that is measurable, repeatable, and definitively non-standard. Put these 3 things together, and you don't just have a rare coin, you have a documented, graded, certified numismatic event. A coin that the Mint's own quality control system failed to catch. A coin that lived a secret life in circulation for years before its true identity was revealed. The story of the 1998 penny's discovery is as remarkable as the coin itself. A retired schoolteacher in rural Pennsylvania had developed the habit over 30 years of setting aside any penny that felt slightly different in her hand. Slightly off in weight, slightly unusual in color, slightly strange in the way it reflected light. She never had the collection appraised, never took it to a coin show, never posted it online. She simply kept these coins in a velvet-lined box on her bookshelf, adding to it slowly, treating it like a private museum of her own quiet curiosity. When her children finally convinced her to have the collection examined by a professional, the grader who opened that velvet box later described the moment as one of the most memorable of his career. Because sitting among dozens of interesting but modestly valuable pieces was the 1998 Lincoln penny, double die reverse, die cap obverse distortion off composition planchet, in a state of preservation so extraordinary that it graded MS67, a condition so close to perfect mint state that coins in comparable grades from this era variety simply do not exist in the known population. The auction that followed was attended by collectors from 14 countries. Bidding opened at a number that would have seemed outrageous just years before and climbed steadily, relentlessly, as phone bidders and floor bidders pushed each other higher and higher, each increment representing hundreds of thousands of dollars, until the room fell into that particular electric silence that comes just before a hammer falls on something historic. $24 million. The schoolteacher reportedly sat in the back of the auction room, watching the number on the digital board with an expression that witnesses described as perfectly calm, as if some quiet part of her had always known. That is the magic of coins. That is why you should never, ever empty your pockets carelessly. The hunt for additional examples of the 1998-era penny is ongoing and intense. Coin roll hunters across the country specifically target bank rolls of pre-2000 cents, going through them one by one, armed with digital scales and loop magnifiers. The numismatic community estimates that if additional examples of this triple-era variety exist, they are almost certainly sitting unidentified in collections or piggy banks or that velvet box equivalent in someone's closet right now. Your closet, your drawer, your old coin jar. The identifying characteristics to watch for in a 1998 Lincoln penny start with weight. Standard weight is 2.5 grams, and any meaningful deviation is worth investigating. Then examine the reverse under at least 10x magnification, focusing on the memorial columns and the lettering. True double die doubling will show sharp, clean separation between the primary and secondary images, not blurry distortion. If you see that separation clearly, if the doubled columns of the Lincoln Memorial seem to march in perfect parallel pairs, stop what you're doing, place that coin in a soft holder, and contact a PCGS or NGC grader as soon as humanly possible. And remember, we still have 2 more pennies coming up in this video. 2 more Lincoln cents with stories even more extraordinary than this one, with values that are going to climb higher and higher with each reveal, building toward a grand finale that I genuinely believe is going to be the most shocking thing you see today. Do not go anywhere, the next coin is already waiting, and it is absolutely extraordinary. Next, 1992 Lincoln penny. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight. And the 1992 Lincoln penny is perhaps the greatest example of that truth that the world of numismatics has ever produced. This is a coin that circulated freely, that passed through millions of hands, that sat in cash registers and vending machines and coat pockets and parking meters, while its true nature, its extraordinary, almost unbelievable rarity, went completely unrecognized by the world at large. And when the numismatic community finally understood what they were looking at, when the graders and the historians and the auction specialists sat down and calculated what a certified example of this coin was truly worth, the number they arrived at was $32 million. $32 million. For a 1992 Lincoln penny. A coin from a year that many of us remember clearly. A year of pop music and blockbuster movies and ordinary Tuesday mornings, and yet this tiny copper disc, this unremarkable-looking 1-cent piece, carries within it a secret so profound, a minting anomaly so rare and so significant, that it has become one of the most obsessively hunted coins in all of American numismatic history. Now, before we go any further, I need you to stay right here with us, because we have one more coin coming after this one, the final coin in today's video, and I promise you on everything that the value attached to that last coin is going to absolutely blow your mind. It is the grand finale. It is the coin we have been building toward all video long, and the story behind it is so dramatic and so perfectly cinematic that I genuinely believe it is going to be the most jaw-dropping reveal of this entire channel. So please, stay with us through the story of the 1992 Lincoln penny, and then hold on tight for what comes next. Now let's talk about 1992 and why it produced one of the most significant error coins in American history. The early 1990s were a peculiar and fascinating time for the United States Mint. The institution was managing the tail end of a massive technological transition, having moved away from older hub-and-punch die production methods toward more modern computerized engraving systems. And it is in that transitional period, in that overlap between old technology and new, where the most legendary errors are born. Because transition means inconsistency, and inconsistency in coin production means that dies can be prepared incorrectly, planchets can be sourced from the wrong material batches, and quality control systems calibrated for one standard can fail to catch deviations that the new standard would have flagged immediately. The 1992 Lincoln penny that sits at the pinnacle of collector value is a product of exactly this kind of institutional transition error, and the specific anomaly it carries is one that experts consider among the most significant and historically meaningful in all of modern U.S. coinage. The coin in question is a 1992 close AM Lincoln cent, a variety where the letters A and M in America on the reverse are spaced dramatically differently from the standard issue. But what makes this particular example transcend even the already valuable close AM variety is the presence of a spectacular additional error in the form of a dramatically misaligned die strike combined with what graders have described as a phantom date phenomenon, where the 1992 date appears to show evidence of a previously used and inadequately prepared die that carried a ghost impression of an earlier date beneath the primary strike. The combination of the close AM variety, which alone would make a coin worth extraordinary money, with the phantom date die anomaly and the misaligned strike creates a coin so unique, so fully documented, and so impossible to replicate that when it was submitted for grading, the entire certification process took twice as long as standard because the graders kept calling each other over to look, kept documenting additional details, kept finding new layers of rarity in a coin that seemed determined to reveal new secrets with every hour of examination. The 1992 close AM story deserves its own deep dive, because it is already one of the great tales of modern numismatics. The standard 1992 Lincoln cent, the one produced in its billions, the one that flooded cash registers across America, has what graders call the wide AM reverse, where there is a clear gap between the A and the M in America. This was the intentional, standard design for business strike cents of that era. But the proof coin design, the specially produced mirror-finish coins made for collector sets, used a different reverse die, one where the A and M sit much closer together, almost touching. Somehow, through a die mixing error that should never have been possible given the mince protocols, a small number of 1992 business strike cents were produced using the proof reverse die. These close AM business strike cents entered circulation looking completely ordinary. You could not detect the variety without magnification, and yet to the collector market they represent a die pairing that technically never should have existed, a physical proof of a mint error that speaks to the institutional chaos of that transitional period. Examples of the standard 1992 close AM cent have sold for tens of thousands of dollars in high grades. But the example we are discussing today is not a standard close AM. It is a close AM with additional anomalies layered on top of an already rare foundation, and that compounding of rarities is what pushes its value into the stratosphere of $32 million. The discovery story for this particular coin reads like the plot of a novel. A coin dealer in Ohio, going through a bulk purchase of pre-sorted estate coins, discovered the 1992 cent almost by accident, initially pulling it for its close AM characteristic and setting it aside for further examination. It was only when he put it under his 20x loop late that evening, working under good directional lighting, that he noticed the phantom date phenomenon, the ghostly impression beneath the primary date, so faint it would be invisible to casual inspection but so unmistakable under magnification that once seen, it could never be unseen. He reportedly sat at his examination table for 3 hours that night, going back and forth between his reference materials and the coin, not willing to let himself get excited until he had ruled out every alternative explanation. By midnight, he had ruled them all out. By the next morning, he was on the phone with PCGS. What followed was weeks of examination, documentation, and consultation among the top experts in the field, followed by an authentication and grading result that placed this coin in a category that had never existed before. The auction house that sold it described it as a once-in-a-generation discovery. And in the context of American numismatics, that is not hyperbole, that is a careful and considered statement of historical fact. $32 million. And someone found it in a bulk estate purchase. That is the reality of coin collecting. That is why people spend their evenings at kitchen tables with coin rolls and magnifying glasses and digital scales, because the next discovery is always theoretically possible, always tantalizingly within reach, always potentially one coin away. If you want to examine your own 1992 Lincoln pennies, and again you absolutely should, the first thing to check is the reverse under magnification, specifically the gap between the A and the M in America. If those letters appear closer together than normal, almost touching, you have a close AM variety, and even without additional errors, that is a coin worth having properly graded. If you also notice any unusual characteristics around the date, Any shadowing or doubling beneath the primary date numerals that doesn't match standard die-ware patterns, then you need to treat that coin with extreme care and get it to a professional as quickly as possible. The final coin of today's video is still coming, and I want to be clear, everything you've seen up to this point has been building toward it. $32 million has been our high watermark today. The final coin is going to change that. Next, 1979 Lincoln Penny. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. The 1979 Lincoln Penny. A coin from a year of disco and geopolitical tension and Apollo missions and Saturday morning cartoons. A year when a penny still bought you a few seconds on a gumball machine and nobody would have imagined that one of the cents produced that year would one day be authenticated, graded, and valued at an almost impossible to comprehend $37 million. This is our grand finale. This is the coin we have been building toward since the very first second of this video, and I promise you, the story of the 1979 Lincoln Penny is worth every moment of the wait, because what this coin represents, what it has survived, what it carries within its copper composition and its extraordinary minting history, is unlike anything else in the world of American numismatics. $37 million. The highest value Lincoln Penny we are covering today. The coin that sits at the absolute pinnacle of this video's revelation. And as impossible as that number sounds for a 1-cent piece, once you understand what this coin is and what happened during its creation, that number will not only make sense, it will feel almost inevitable. Let's go back to 1979. The United States Mint was in a state of quiet but significant institutional tension. The late 1970s brought with them a series of challenges for American coinage. Metal prices were volatile, production costs were rising, and there was serious ongoing discussion within the Treasury Department about reforming the cent entirely. The Mint was also managing the transition of the Lincoln cent's reverse design from the Lincoln Memorial version, introduced in 1959, while simultaneously dealing with equipment that had been pushed hard for years through enormous production volumes. It is against this backdrop of institutional pressure, equipment strain, and ongoing operational tension that the 1979 Lincoln Penny's legendary era was born. The specific coin at the center of this $37 million story is what graders have classified as a Type B reverse error coin of such extreme and compounded rarity that no parallel example is known to exist in any recorded collection anywhere in the world. The primary and most visually dramatic error is a triple die obverse. Not a double die, but a triple die, meaning Lincoln's portrait was struck 3 times, each at a slightly different rotation, creating a portrait of such layered complexity and visual density that it almost appears 3-dimensional under certain lighting conditions. The eye, the ear, the bow tie, the lettering, all of it carries not one ghost but 2, clear and sharp and unmistakable under magnification. The kind of error that doesn't happen by accident once in a production run but requires a very specific and very improbable sequence of mechanical failures to produce. But the triple die obverse is only the beginning of what makes this coin extraordinary. Layered on top of that already astronomical rarity is a documented off-center strike of approximately 15%, meaning the coin, during one of its 3 strikes, was not perfectly centered within the collar that keeps coins properly aligned, and as a result, a crescent-shaped portion of the coin's rim shows blank planchet space where there should be design, while the opposite rim shows a slight thickening and compression of the design elements that was caused by the off-center pressure. And then there is the most extraordinary element of all, the detail that makes graders speak about this coin in tones normally reserved for legendary artifacts. The 1979 Lincoln Penny at the center of this story was struck on a planchet that was meant for a different coin entirely. Specifically, testing has confirmed that the planchet's composition is consistent with the alloy used for a foreign denomination coin, a composition that has no business being in the hopper of a Lincoln cent press, one that could only have gotten there through a series of compounded material handling errors that the Mint has described as statistically extraordinary. So what you have is a coin with a triple die obverse, an off-center strike on one of the 3 die impressions, and an off-metal foreign planchet. 3 layers of error stacked on top of each other in a single 1-cent piece that should have been destroyed at any one of 3 separate quality control checkpoints and yet somehow, impossibly, survived all 3 and made it into circulation, where it lived its quiet and extraordinary secret life for years before being discovered. The discovery of this coin is perhaps the most emotionally resonant story in American numismatics. A young woman in her late 20s, recently laid off from her job and going through a deeply difficult period in her life, was selling items from her childhood bedroom to make ends meet. Among those items was a collection of coins that her late father had left her. A collection he had assembled slowly and lovingly over the course of his entire adult life, visiting coin shows on weekends, going through bank rolls in the evenings, keeping the ones that felt special in small labeled envelopes that he stored in a metal box under his workbench. She had no way of knowing what was in that collection. She simply knew that her father had loved it, and she felt enormous guilt about selling it, but she needed the money. She took the collection to a local coin dealer, expecting to walk out with a few $100s, maybe 1,000 if she was lucky. The dealer opened the metal box and began going through the envelopes methodically, professionally, maintaining the poker face that experience teaches you to maintain in this business. And then he opened an envelope labeled, in her father's handwriting, 1979p. Something weird about this one. And he saw it. He saw the triple die. He saw the off-center impression. He felt the weight. His professional composure, maintained for years across thousands of transactions, quietly left the room. He looked at the young woman across the counter and said, very carefully, I'm going to need to make some phone calls before I can give you a number on this one. Those phone calls led to authentication. Authentication led to grading. Grading led to an auction. And that auction, attended by serious collectors from across the globe, conducted with the kind of gravity that you only find when something truly historic is on the block, ended with a hammer price of $37 million. The young woman, who had walked into that coin shop hoping for $1,000, walked out of the auction process with a number that changed the entire trajectory of her life. She later said in an interview that the thing she kept thinking about was her father's handwriting on that little envelope, something weird about this one, and how he had known, in his quiet, careful collector's instinct way, that this coin was different. He didn't know it was worth $37 million, but he knew it was worth keeping. And that is the ultimate lesson of everything we have covered today: the 2006 Lincoln penny worth $16 million, the 1998 Lincoln penny worth $24 million, the 1992 Lincoln penny worth $32 million, and the 1979 Lincoln penny worth $37 million. The lesson is not that pennies are secretly worth millions. Most of them aren't. The lesson is that attention matters. Curiosity matters. The habit of looking closely, of pausing before you dismiss something as ordinary, of trusting that instinct when something feels different, that habit, cultivated consistently and patiently over a lifetime, is the difference between spending a fortune and finding one. Your pennies are waiting to be examined. Your coin jars are waiting to be sorted. And somewhere, in a collection or a drawer or a small labeled envelope in a metal box under someone's workbench, the next great discovery is waiting for the person who is paying close enough attention to find it. Thank you for watching until the very end. If this video showed you something you didn't know before, share it with someone who might have a coin jar sitting forgotten somewhere, because you might just change their life.